So, you want to be a fighter?
It's not just how hard you hit, or how fast you can move, or how many strikes you can absorb without tapping out.
It's about getting up earlier, training harder,
And pushing yourself more than the other guys.
It's about knowing you can be the best.
And doing everything in your power to make it a reality.
It's about courage and commitment.
That's what it takes. So, you want to be a fighter? This.
This is how.
Welcome to episode 20. 20 episodes in now. Congratulations to me and those of you who have watched 19 and are now watching 20 of them. You have wasted probably 3.5 hours of your life watching this mini. So, thanks, and I'm sorry. Those of you who are tuning in for your first time, please subscribe, tell your friends. Episode 20, we're going to talk about the UFC Undisputed Gaming Series that's available now for the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Preferred system to get it on, doesn't really matter, the game is identical on either system. First off, going to start off with UFC 2009. This really redeems the UFC gaming series. We've seen them on the PS2, don't recall the exact name of it, but they were a UFC game. They were not good. They were not good back then. Are they good now? Yes, very good games. If you're a fan of the UFC, anything to do with it, if you're a fan of UFC period, you will like this game. Why? Because it's a fighting game that has UFC fighters in it that fight each other. As for a fighting game, does it work well? Yes, very well. You feel strong as those players, especially with the knockout punches and the black and white slow motion kind of things that other fighting games try to do. UFC 2009, I have it for 360. Basically, it was their introduction to a new gaming series. It was the test. They had a lot of limited features. They had, do some classic fights to unlock things, play through a 32 fight career to unlock things, improve your character, you can create your own character, go through and just play through a career. Very limited. You started off in what seemed like an Ultimate Fighter competition, then you instantly made your way up from Fight Night to UFC pay-per-views, and they didn't really have much of a not a Hollywood feel, but like a pay-per-view feel to the game. You just kind of went through and won the fights. They had the broadcast that seemed like it, but there wasn't the backstage stuff that made it. There was cool training things you could do to level up. There's different fighting styles. Basically, you could pick from like Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, any of those things. You got to pick two to focus on your fighter as, and then you focus on skills from there. In UFC 2009, they didn't have as many fighters as they do in 2010. Obviously, it's their introduction. They're going to show off their best fighters. They didn't have a lot of up-and-comers because I guess they didn't probably have the time to add all them, or they didn't want to waste money. They just wanted to get the product out. So in 2010, they made up for that by including over 100 fighters from the lower leagues and new up-and-comers, downloadable fighters, and so on and so forth. With the pre-order, you actually got the final four of the Ultimate Fighter Season 10, the heavyweights. So you got the fatty, Big Country Roy Nelson, and then the other three. Obviously, Roy Nelson won it. That's why I refer to him as fatty. He uses his belly to his advantage. I don't think of him as a real good heavyweight contender. But that's another topic. You can check out UFC and give your thoughts on that on UFC.com's website. Check it out. So UFC 2010, obviously Brock Lesnar's the heavyweight champion at this point. He's their biggest marketing thing. Forrest Griffin was their biggest marketing thing on 2009. In 2010, new improvements. Online mode improved. In 2009, they had ranking, they had exhibition. That was pretty much it. 2010, they introduced fight camps. You could train others and work with others and do other things like that. Is it cool? Yes. Why is it not cool? Because it costs $5. If you don't buy the game new, you have to pay more money to play something that was free before. Stupid? Yes. Did I do it? Yeah. I wanted to try it out. I wanted to battle, people online and, see if I could handle it. In 2009, I played online for free in the ranking. When I stopped, 100 wins, 24 losses. I am like 0-10 in 2010. with UFC 2010. So they made the game much harder. And as for the combat system, they made a lot of improvements. They added more fighting styles. They added more clinch game, more ground game. They added the cage, pushing the cage. There's so many more advantages and less disadvantages in this one. It's really hard to reverse submissions now. So basically, if you want to win a match, here's tip: pummel your opponent and push them against the cage, slam them, and then put them in an arm bar, and you will win, because it's almost impossible to reverse out of that. You will win every time if you can gain that advantage right off the bat. If you cannot, you'll probably lose, like I have been with trying to pull a Shane Carwin and do stand-up when I clearly should be training on my wrestling and ground skills. So there's some tips. Definitely, you can't just stand and go for knockouts in this game, because people are no longer fighting that way. People got smarter about it. In the computer, you can still win that way, but people online, you cannot win that way. They also made a more in-depth career mode in UFC 2010. They have where you go to, they made up some fight club thing. I don't remember what it's called, but you go through this little mediocre, like 10-person little bingo hall fighting area and work your way up the ranks that way. And then you get offered by Dana White. He shows up and he's like, "Hey, you want to come check out, fight night?" And you say, "Sure, of course." And you go through that. You go through the ranks. You work your way up, and then once you're a top contender, they're like, "Hey, you want to be on a pay-per-view as a opening card or a mid-carder?" And then you work your way up, and then eventually in a title fight, and then you win the title, and then so forth. You play through that. Basically, you play through 12 to 15 years with your character, and then you retire him, and then you can obviously by that point you've trained him, done all the similar things like in 2009, and added attribute points and so on and so forth. The thing I didn't like about the career mode in this one, if you don't have your attributes at 30, 70, or 30, 50, or 70, if you don't train with that certain skill, they start to deplete. So let's say you were working on your clinch game, your clinch offense, you had it at 39. You didn't do that for 2 weeks, it starts to go down, and it's like a 32 in a couple weeks. So make sure if you're not going to focus on something, stop it at a 30, 50, or 70, and then come back to it and make sure you have enough attribute points accumulated so you can move it up to the next 20 interval. After you have your last fight, one of the main things you want to do too is go all out and add all the attribute points you can, because once you retire, you cannot touch that character again. He's retired, he's done. So that's a new thing that you'll learn through that after playing one playthrough of the career mode. It's a lot better, it's a bigger production, so they made a huge improvement on that. Pretty much very similar things. They improved little things like if you're doing exhibition matches with your friends, having your friends over, you no longer have to back out a couple screens, wait for it to load to select fighter. As soon as the fight's over, you can do rematch, select fighter, select arena, and so forth right then and there. So you can just keep going with exhibition matches and so on and so forth. So it's a lot more, hey, keep going and keep playing, not just, hey, play a match, exit out. Do you want to play again? So it's more welcoming. So definitely pick up either or. You'll be happy with UFC 2009 or 2010. If you're a fan of UFC, definitely pick up either or both. Pick up 2010. It's the more recent one, has a better roster. Is the only reason I'd pick it up. For price-wise, 2009 is much, much cheaper. So if you're not sure of it yet, or if you don't know if you're really into this fighting game, test it out with 2009. Give it a rent, or even test out 2010. But definitely, if you like UFC, you like fighting games, this game is for you. I give it a really high B, high 80s. Not too many flaws. I stated my flaws, so definitely pick it up. You like the UFC, you will like this game. Thank you for watching episode 20. Stay tuned for more stuff. Take care.
See